Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to an entry for a film which is not from too far back, but is one which seems to be forgotten. And that is for the 2017 film Life, starring a really great cast. We have Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds, Rebecca Ferguson, and Hiroyuki Sanada, for which the synopsis is as follows. A team of scientists aboard the International Space Station discover a rapidly evolving life form that caused extinction on Mars and now threatens all life on Earth. So, every now and then, something pops up on social media or YouTube about this film, with the comments about how they, the one posting, either never heard of this one or they've completely forgotten about it. And I agree. I forgot about it. And I own it on Blu-ray. This is one of those that I saw in the theater, really enjoyed it, picked it up on Blu-ray, watched it once at home, and then just haven't watched it in years. Now this is happening more and more for me, I feel like, because we have so much content. We have content overload. Thousands and thousands of movies and shows and songs and games and everything at a simple click, so there isn't as much reason to revisit something when there's always something newer available, it seems like. So some of them, like Life, I just end up forgetting. So I sat down to rewatch this one, figuring that perhaps there's a reason why I forget it. Maybe it just didn't age well, or, on the second viewing it just didn't hold up. Like maybe, I think of things like Lost in Space. I remember enjoying it in the 90s, didn't care for it a couple of years ago when I tried to watch it. Or the 90s version of Frankenstein with Robert De Niro. I remember kind of enjoying it, picked it up for $1 on Blu-ray or on a DVD, and I made it about an hour in. It just didn't really work for me. But this one, it was surprising. It still held up. It was still a good one. So as the synopsis states, a rapidly evolving life form is threatening the space station and Earth. But before we even get to that, we spent some time getting to know these characters and their situation on the space station, investigating this probe that they received in orbit as it was returning from Mars. Now, we get little bits, just enough about these characters, their backgrounds, their assignments on this mission, and their personalities. Especially from Ryan Reynolds for his character, which he really pretty much plays himself. He plays Ryan Reynolds, but not in too much of a distracting way, but he does provide a little bit of comedy here and there. Now initially, all is fine with the revival of these cells from this probe. It's hailed as a great discovery with the whole world watching. They even named this life Calvin after one of the schools down on Earth, who the students of this school had kind of won the naming rights and they named it after their school. So all this good stuff doesn't really last that long, because as they're doing their experiments, Calvin is growing, gaining some abilities to move around, grab onto things, and then it turns into something more along the lines of the film Alien, at least, the overall feel of this thing kind of being loose on this space station. But this is all put together really well because we get that first 20 minutes, getting to know everyone, seeing the revival of and celebration of this life from Mars. And then at about that 30-minute mark is where this science fiction mystery starts to turn into science fiction horror, with Calvin very violently lashing out. Now, for the most part in this film, things aren't that bloody, but they are really gross, grasping and crunching through bones, crawling down throats, and slowly growing and gaining sentience and determination. We go from that cat and mouse kind of aspect to an all-out defense from this thing, with the big issues being, how are we going to handle the situation? How are we going to survive? How are we going to stop Calvin from potentially getting down to Earth and wiping it out, as they presume it did on Mars eons ago? Now, this one never leans too hard on the science aspect of science fiction. It's just enough to make it plausible as a near-future event, possibly. Just enough to buy into it, but not so much that you feel like you are attending some sort of a course in physics, or that it's so wildly out there that it's completely unbelievable. It also never leans too hard on the horror. We have that thriller side of it going on. It still has that horror aspect, but it veers away from the bloody mess that you may see in a horror film like this to one that's still violent and scary, but nothing really over the top. However, knowing that this one is rated R will let you know how well they still convey some of those horror aspects, since there isn't that much of like a bloody mess kind of situation happening, and I don't recall it being so heavy on the profanity that it would specifically get the rating from that alone. So it's that implication of violence and what violence they have as far as how it's carried out should really clue one in on kind of what to expect from this. But it is strange to me that I'd only seen this one twice in the past 7 years since it came out, with this recent viewing being only my third, and I'd forgotten so much of this one. Sometimes I forget everything about a film, sit down to watch it again and remember, yeah, this one's not so great. Ultimately, it is forgettable, like I mentioned with ones like Frankenstein or Lost in Space, and there's got to be several others over the years. But in this case, I don't really know why this one slipped away from me, or a wider audience in general, since whenever it's referenced or somebody remembers that this film exists, it still is regarded as at the very least, pretty good. It's kind of like just for some reason certain films seem to come and go and they are forgotten. But by all means, this one is not a blockbuster. You know, it is not highbrow or emotionally intense. It's not over-the-top gory or over-the-top scary. Not everything needs to be a 100% great and perfect film in every way. There are many out there which, like this one, are pretty decent films which deserve a chance or a second chance, as they are more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out my latest little video here for Life from 2017, which at the time of this video is available on Netflix as well as Tubi and paid rental. Like I said, I had it on Blu-ray. So if you're in the mood to check out a lesser talked about sci-fi horror that isn't too over the top, it's kind of like along the same lines and feel as Alien, head on over to give that one a watch. Anyways, that's all I have for this entry. Be sure to like and subscribe if not already subscribed, and check out my back catalog and share everything around, because there's been some interesting times these past 2 months with views and subscribers really plummeting, and not just from me, but from larger channels. I just saw a post the other day from Minty Comedic Arts, who's got almost 500,000 subscribers, and even he's getting hit by something happening with the algorithm where he's not gaining as many subscribers anymore. His views are plummeting. It's really been strange. Whatever YouTube is doing, I hope they straighten it out soon, or they finish running this little algorithmic experiment, because I like making these videos about films I enjoy and want to share, and I want to make sure people get to see them. Anyways, that's all I have for this one. Thanks for coming by and for sticking around to the end, as it really does help out quite a bit, and I will see you in the next one.